It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we wondered what part of Buddhism allows you to boil an octopus alive. So here in Asia, no fears of being reincarnated as an octopus, I guess. Just saying. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Here's Mark Bailey.
Mark Bailey, Mike Miller on Talk Funny. Mike, did you ever see the movie, I think it was on Netflix a year or two ago, called Fall?
I don't think I did, no. Is it good?
It's about these two girls that climb a tower. Like
what happens at the end?
In New Mexico.
I have no idea.
It ends up really, it's a good ending.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's fine at the end.
Okay, good. Oh,
That's why it's called Fall.
I was a little bit afraid with that title.
It's called Fall because they went up there in autumn. Mm-hmm. And that's why.
Oh,
yeah, that's why
I see.
No spoilers.
Okay.
No spoilers. And after seeing it, I wanted to call the movie like Dumb and Dumber 3. This is a federally protected tower that they haven't maintenance, and so the screws don't work. So what happens, short version...
You want to climb it, obviously.
Short version, yeah, because they're content providers. And so they thought it'd be really cool. You go up, the ladder to the top.
In the autumn. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As you do.
And they don't hear all the screws. Somehow in the movie, we see all the screws falling down as they climb up.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not be able to use that ladder going down. Like, did you have a parachute? Because you might need one.
Have you ever seen a Red Bull video with the base jumping? You know they have parachutes, right?
So, of course, they get stranded up there.
Uh-huh.
And this is your tax dollars not maintaining the tower. Mm-hmm. And then at the top of the tower, the dumber of the two girls accidentally lets it slip.
There's one that's dumber?
Yeah.
And they both climb the same tower.
And they're doing content on TikTok, right?
Oh, I see.
And then one of the girls, the brunette, talks to the blonde girl about her boyfriend, about the blonde's boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And says, I forgot the name they use. He said, yeah, John Z always likes to do that after sex. And then the other one goes, how do you know what he likes to do after sex? It's like, no, I mean, that's what he told me. No, how do you know? And anyway, she says, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, it happened only once. But I didn't mean anything.
Of course, they're both going to die then. That's
well,
like horror movie logic, right? Like, you're both going to die. You cheated. You've done horrible things.
This is the part I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
The girl that cheated on the other girl fell from the tower.
What? No. Say it ain't so.
What are the odds?
That's like, kids having, teenagers having sex and, Halloween getting killed by Mike Myers. That's just completely out of my consciousness.
Mike we climbed to the top of the TV tower, to the absolute top, and then Mike told me he actually...
No, I actually told you that I stole one of your jokes.
And Mike told me he actually stole one of my jokes, and he doesn't regret it. And guess what happened next? Guess what Mike did next? He fell.
He flew. He tried to fly.
He flew
I
like
believe I can
butterfly.
fly.
I believe Mike can fly. If he doesn't stop the knee splitting. It's the dumbest movie I've ever seen. You could have brought parachutes. I'm serious. You could have brought parachutes, and then their cell phone dies because they're above the towers, and the battery doesn't last. Did you know, Mike, at the top of a random tower in New Mexico, there's no charger up there. There's no constant. There's no electrical outlet up there.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other interesting thing is, when you're closer to the stratosphere, you actually get better radio signal from up there.
And did you
maybe the writers don't know that.
Did you know that this was? Yeah, that's a good point. And did you know that this was fenced off and said, "Danger, climb. It's your own peril." And then they climbed, and then they were in peril. Yeah. Cliffhanger? Wow. Spoiler alert. Who would have known? So I thought you should call it Two Dumb Girls.
Yeah, or we could call it Writer's Strike. Sounds like the good writers were on the picket line. And, they got somebody else to write it.
So, Mike,
or maybe it was written by AI. Maybe it was one of these new AI-written movies.
So, Mike, I got an idea for a movie. Buhay Doria is like near us, our office, and it's a very dangerous street. It's a one-way street. And there are two crosswalks in a row, and nobody ever stops for them, the motorists.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really cool TikTok video if we just do our stand-up in the middle of the road.
You know what?
Why don't we do it in the road?
Let's do better than that. Let's lie down on the crosswalk. I think that would be even better.
Let's do lying down. Let's do knee-splaining.
That's a great idea. Let's do that. The only time you're ever going to let me knee-splain is in a crosswalk in
the middle of the road, and we TikTok it.
That's a great idea. You know what? Let's take a picture of our behinds first of all, and then we'll do the front. And
well, just like this movie was called Fall, we'll call that Roadkill.
But it's a very pedestrian movie, so I don't think you'd want to watch it.
I think it's actually probably kind of just eye candy because the girls, they show a lot of cleavage. Because it actually wasn't. I lied to you, Mike. It wasn't in the autumn. That was actually a joke.
What?
Because autumn is sometimes called fall.
You're not known to joke. You're not known to joke.
It was actually in the summer,
that.
So they're showing a lot of cleavage. I think it might be lesbian eye candy.
It's like we're going back to the 1980s. What's going on with these movies? Have they heard that there's a thing called porn? Are they not aware of that? That there's a thing called pornography that's available on every web platform available? I'm
thinking of doing a lesbian adventure movie. I'm going to call it Louise and Thelma. It's never been done before. Or Dumber and Dumb.
Dumber and Dumb. I like that. That sounds great.
Or
get AI to write it for you. It's only going to get better.
How about Ocean's -1?
Oh, I like that. Ocean's
one
-1.
One of them goes missing, so it's Ocean's -1.
Oh, I like it. I like it. A rip-off of a rip-off of a rip-off. That's the best.
I know what you did last winter.
What you did last winter. That's the Canadian version.
We did a joke on the chat. Is Joe Biden had a bad debate night one time, and he was doing the class song, Should I Go or Should I Go?
No, he's going to save America. He's not going anywhere, man.
People were saying, well, what is he going to do for the second term? It's like, just tell him he already had us a second term.
That's true.
Just tell him.
Give him some jelly beans. It worked with Reagan. Give him some jelly beans.
Just tell Trump that Biden passed away.
Yeah.
But he had great things to say about you.
That's right.
And he said, you could drop out and everybody will still love you, Trump.
They could make him honorary president and just put him on tour of the U.S. every week. He wouldn't have to be real president. He could just be the honorary president or something.
Weekend at D.C.
Yeah.
We want to talk about the Loud Izakaya. He hasn't done it yet on Q. Now he's
That's
quiet.
because you talked about it.
Yeah. There's across from our office, there's a Izakaya, Fish Izakaya. And the guy's he's facing toward the street. And he's like, "Hiya! Hiya! Hiya!" And
now you're doing his work for you.
It's
for
really
him,
annoying.
I should say.
Two people just entered when I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine that adds business. But it's very annoying to the residents.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that live in this office building have kids.
And it's also, the place is located in a residential building, is it not?
Yes.
On the ground floor?
Yeah.
I'm sure the people upstairs love him.
Yeah.
It must.
So we love your enthusiasm, but maybe just make good food, and then the rest will do.
Mm-hmm.
Have
you heard of social media? Facebook, X, Instagram.
TikTok! You're not supposed to scream TikTok.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go on it.
That's right.
And so, I don't know. I had one of my moments. I usually let things slide.
I know. You're cool as a cucumber,
but
Mark.
sometimes once in a year.
I know.
Maybe
gets to you. Little thing gets to you. I know.
You know what? I might ask Mike about this, but I might just tell someone what I actually
think. Mark? That's not like you.
It's not going to
What's
go
wrong?
over
Is this
well.
your therapy? What's going on?
It's not going to go over well, but I need more material. So...
Because the direct approach is always going to succeed in Japan. That's the most successful thing to do.
Yeah, they love that. So I went over there and
they love it when you tell your real opinion about things. They love it over here.
Yeah, basically, his bodyguard, maybe his brother, was standing outside, and I said, "Who's the guy screaming? Hiya! Hiya!" He goes, "That's Tencho-san." And I said, "Can I talk to him?" And he goes, "Oh, he's kind of busy." I said, "He's busy screaming. I don't see him making a lot of things. He's not cooking a lot." Anyway, I lied, and I said, my granddaughter is sleeping up here over across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could keep it down, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, he goes, well, he's got his style. And I said, maybe don't shout into the street. Maybe shout away from the street. Because that's your building. That's your...
He should be shouting at that other street, not this street.
Yeah.
Because there's not many people walking down here. They're all on the other main street.
Yeah. And so he goes, okay, I'll tell him. I'm sure he'll stop. And he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got louder.
Mm-hmm.
So I have him on video. And so when I walk by there, I go, hiya! It's just it's very annoying. It's just too bad. I might put it, if I hear him, I'm going to tape him, I'm going to put him in this.
Yeah, it's a thing that in Japan, some people really expect from a business and they want it, but a lot of other people are just annoyed by it. I really don't get irashaimase. It is a little too much sometimes. And then when you're leaving the restaurant and they come out and they bow and they're like, "Oh, thank you for your business," and blah blah blah, and it's a little too much sometimes. Just a little much. You feel an obligation to say something. It's just yeah.
Well, another thing my wife and my female Japanese relatives will do is you kiss ass. You're kissing butt at the restaurant. It's like they'll bring you some shoyu at the restaurant, and you go, "Oishiso na." It's soy sauce. It's not delicious. Okay, you eat too much of it, you're gonna die. All right, of hypertension. And then they'll bring like a salad.
See that soy sauce? Hypertension.
They'll bring salad. It's just salad.
See that salad?
And
too much fiber.
"Oh, oishiso." I'm like, "It's lettuce and tomato. It's not oishiso." And then they bring water, and my wife, she'll drink it.
See that water? Could have poison in
it. Is your water delicious, Mike?
No, it's not.
Tastes like water.
Mine's oishikunai.
Mine tastes like water. Mine's kind of watery.
Yeah.
My water is kind of watery. And so are Shooter's drinks.
Yeah. We love shooters.
I was explaining to your...
They are treating me well.
I was explaining to your white supremacist friend.
Yes.
We will call him...
He's not my friend right now.
We'll call him Ron.
Let's say the guy I know who's a white supremacist, because we're not exactly friends.
He's also not that keen on
He's not exactly friends with a lot of people right now, because he's a white supremacist.
He's also not that keen on comedy.
Yeah, surprising. I thought Nazis loved comedy. Didn't they love comedy back in the 30s?
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No.
And so I told him, he goes... "Funny, I heard that you roasted Chris," and I told him some jokes for the owner. We love Chris, we love Shooters, and we're kind of residents there now, and we love that place. But, I told it to Chris directly, and then I got some really bad turkey for Thanksgiving. But anyway, I was telling Ron, some of the jokes were, they say that the human body is 60% water, and so are most Shooters cocktails, and jokes like that. And he goes, "Well, of course he's going to give you bad turkey. He's not going to like that." I'm like, "Ron, do you know what a roast is?"
Yeah.
He said I could roast him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to promote his place. I'm already doing that. I'm a customer. I've been a customer for 20 years.
Yes, and you always go to Thanksgiving. You always go to the big meals and spend and they're not cheap.
No.
Like Thanksgiving, how much is that? 4,000 yen or something, or 5,000 yen?
It's gone up to 3,500 yen now.
3,500 yen.
That's
so
like
that's
steak prices.
That's like that. Well, I mean, American dollars is probably like $2 right now, but I mean, like in Japan, that's expensive. That's like $35. Anyways,
but that's like steak prices over here. In
for turkey.
Right?
It's not steak.
It's a bird. It's supposed to be cheap.
Yeah, and you can get it pretty cheap at the Brazilian supermarkets, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Call back to Agneta Veldskog. First time my dad and we were watching in the 70s, Abba and the stunning blonde, really hot blonde, and a nice redhead. She was sexy at the time, but I love the blonde. And then my dad's watching that, and my mom's there, and I'm there, and my sister's there, and we're watching live on American Bandstand. And she's got this...
Dick Clark.
She's showing off her cleavage and turns around, shows nice short skirt, and then they showed a rehash of it again toward the end of the show, and then my dad got up and said, suddenly, "I've got to go to the bathroom."
Oh, no!
And I said, "Well, I was going to go to the bathroom."
Oh.
I was 12.
And then you were like, "I really wish I didn't have a good memory."
Yeah. That's all you remember about your dad?
Oh, let me tell you a story about my dad. Is that what you told at the gathering after?
Well, it's kind of like Billy Crystal in Mr. Saturday Night when his mom died.
Classic one. Classic movie.
Yeah,
classic movie.
great
Yeah.
movie. A lot of one-liners. He walks in and fires everybody at the club. "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired." One guy goes, "I don't even work here." He goes, "You're hired. Now you're fired."
Yeah.
Right. But he goes to his mom's funeral and he said, "When my sister called me and said that mom passed, I was devastated." I'm like, "Did anybody get her recipe for strudel?" This is a disaster. The Jewish funerals are like that.
Well, you got to do that at a funeral or a wake or whatever, because if you don't do that, you're just crying all the time. So, right?
Yeah.
What you gonna do? Laugh or cry? Those are your two choices.
I think the one I wrote from...
Or be indifferent. Maybe there's some people that we would be indifferent. Like if you die twice, we might be indifferent the second time you die.
Yeah.
Unlike anyone we know.
Yeah, Gary. And so when my dad said, "You're allowed to be a reverend. I know you want to tell some jokes." And then your cousin, but your cousin, he's done stand-up, and he'll do it. So I wrote the jokes for him, and he did a great job. And one of the jokes was, he said, "When I heard that my mom passed, They said she passed on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good that she passed, but it's good that it's a Saturday because I don't take phone calls on other days. So I would have known for a week.
Oh, nice one. I like that.
My mom, she said, if I can't see you do comedy, I'd rather die. I want to see you do comedy in New York. Otherwise, I would rather die. And I said, she saw me do comedy. And then she said, I'll still take death.
Jesus. Sorry.
That's good.
That's dark, but hey, what are you going to do, right? That's life.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to joke about things it's a coping mechanism, right?
And then she said, I'm not going to live forever. And I said, can I get that in writing? She said, I know Jewish moms are bitches. They're supposed to be bitches. But you're going to love me after I'm gone. I'm like, you want to bet? What's the over-under on that, Mom? I said, but I told these jokes to my mom, and she laughed. So it's okay for you to laugh. I wanted to do it by Zoom, but I was working. I had exams, I couldn't do it.
Oh, man. And we did a comedy show, too, that
was
day or the day after or something.
Yeah, it was 12 hours later.
And your mom's spirit was there because that table didn't assault you. She protected you from the table.
Yeah.
Long story, but maybe a few podcasts back. I don't know.
Sweating in Japan?
Oh, yeah, sweating. We're in the sweaty season now.
Well, I
officially.
think, what's the sweaty season like in Japan? I think I told you the story. I had an ad salesman that I hired for NagoyaRadio.com, and we're walking around in August. He spoke French. He's from the Congo, and we were going to French restaurants and trying to get them to advertise with us. And we're walking around, and he's sweating buckets. And he goes, it's really hot today.
He's from Congo.
He's from the Congo. But we figured it out. It's like, yeah, because they have trees in the Congo.
Yes. That's why Nagoya is, like I always talk about it, like in the summer, it's like one giant armpit you're living in. Because there are some streets that have trees, and then there's a lot of streets that have no shade whatsoever other than the buildings. So if you're lucky enough to be walking down the street, like past noon, and you're getting shade on one side of the street, you're good.
Yeah.
But any other time, if you're at noon or when the sun is high in the sky, if you don't have a parasol, you're melting into that sidewalk. It's just awful. It is awful.
I think you told a joke one time, which it's funny because it's true. I mean, it's true. You take a shower because you're just sweating, and you get out of the shower, and you dry off, and before you put your clothes on, you're sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
So you put your clothes on, and they're wet.
Yeah. Then you got to take another shower.
But I lost weight. I put on recently, but 2 years ago, I lost a lot of weight. And then I was actually cold on the trains.
Really?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the sweating is I was, overweight.
Well, yeah, obviously the bigger you are, the more you sweat just because your body's generating more heat, right? Just the size. And
the worst thing about in Nagoya being sweaty and it being hot is having to hear every 2 seconds, Atsui. It's hot. It's hot. It's hotter. Shut up! Your hot breath is making it hotter.
Was it Tokyo Kuni? There was a comedian who used to live in Japan who did the whole bit about that, like how he was sick of that because they would come at him, and the entire conversation, like every conversation in the summer would be Atsuine. And he was just like, he was going crazy. Yeah, I think you can still find it on YouTube somewhere.
You've done something like that where you say like, Atsui da ne, natsu da kara ne. Yeah, it's hot, yeah, because it's summer, Last summer, I didn't remember it being as hot as it was this summer. But this summer is really hot. Yeah, it really is hot. A few months ago, it wasn't that hot. I know, because it was spring, right? And because spring is not as hot as summer. It's like, we know these things. But that's what Japanese people say to each other.
Yeah. Well, it's a way of starting a conversation, right? It's just like, hashi jozu desu ne. You use chopsticks really well, right? If they're talking to a foreigner.
I had a comment about being a podcaster. When you're a podcaster, any store that you go into your life or anything that happens to you becomes a story, and you have to write it down. It's not something that happened to you. It's something I got to do in the next podcast because you're actually a content provider.
Yeah.
But you're not actually living your life.
No.
You're writing down what's happening to you during your life.
Yeah.
And during that time, my daughter got married and had 2 children, and I did 17 podcasts.
That's right. That's
but
right.
I talked about it.
That's right. You talked about it. Well, that's the eternal dilemma of like living and commenting, kind of, right? Criticizing or I don't know. Like, what would you say? It's the same thing with like critics who spend all their time writing about movies so much that they don't actually get to see a lot of movies. Like it's that you're kind of either doing something, or you're kind of living. So, and I think some comedians who are not as funny. They spend so much time working that they're not actually living, and they're not getting material from their everyday life. You know what I mean? Like, they're so focused on, I got to get up on stage, I got to write new bits, that they're not living a life where the bits naturally come to you. They will come to you, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, my son pointed out something. He said, sometimes I'll tape my English classes, because I'm trying out material, actually. Mm-hmm. And then if it works, I'll keep it. And I told him, sometimes I take my English classes. He said, you work a lot teaching classes. Yeah. And then I'll tape my comedy shows. Mm-hmm. And he said, so you're taping a lot of your work? I said, yeah. So he said, when are you going to watch this?
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't end up in the Smithsonian or the Library of Congress or something.
I hope it does.
Yeah, I hope it does.
I don't care.
There'll be like the Mark Bailey archives where we bore through.
Well, it's going to be Bill Cosby-esque.
Oh.
We always liked his jokes, but we never realized the onion joke was actually going to happen.
Just one more thing. That onion joke.
And we didn't realize that the Dalai Lama was all real stories.
Yeah.
You know.
Hello, Patreon.
Mark Bailey, Mike Miller, Talk Funny.